I'm going to talk about official party documents, policy and practice. The government of China has, well, of course, they've changed the story about the source of organs. At one time saying it's donations, then saying it's from prisoners, then saying it's donations. And the very constant change in narrative itself raises its own questions. One thing we can see is the demonization of prisoners of conscience. Falun Gong was initially encouraged because it was good for health. There was an ideological vacuum in China with the shift from socialism to capitalism under Deng Xiaoping. The practice of Falun Gong was actively encouraged, promoted. The officials in China were actually in embassies and consulates sending out promotional material, leading exercises. It was everywhere in China, and then it just got too big, too popular, and then there was a fear for the ideological supremacy of the party because of the popularity of Falun Gong and its belief system, which was not communist in nature, although there wasn't a lot left in communism to believe in once they abandoned socialism. So they kind of switched around and instead of encouraging it, actually repressed it. Without, I should say, changing the laws. I mean, this is a common problem in dealing with Chinese propaganda. They often say the law says this when it doesn't. It's just the Communist Party has said it. And that is certainly, I mean, it's true of organ, of the repression of Falun Gong, but it's also true of this statement which they commonly make that the sourcing of organs from prisoners was banned in 2015. Which it wasn't. The party just made a statement to that effect. But one of the documents, which you can see on the screen now, is a document that actually allows for the sourcing of organs from prisoners. It's 1984, so it's a long time ago. It's the caveat that that their bodies are uncollected from family members. But of course, for prisoners of conscience, that normally doesn't happen because, first of all, they don't know where they are. And secondly, even if they did, they're afraid to approach the authorities because the authorities are basically after anyone who's connected with these prisoners of conscience. But what's striking about this 1984 law is not just that it authorizes the sourcing of organs from prisoners without their consent or the consent of their family members, provided their bodies are complained, but that it remains the law today. It's called a provisional regulation. But it's definitely more than provisional. And I mean, there has subsequently been a law that says you can't source an organ from anybody without consent. But I would say, just generally, it's a principle of interpretation. The particular takes precedence over the general as an exception to the general. But also, it's kind of a doublespeak. For public consumption, they can say the practice is banned, but to the hospitals which are engaged in the practice, they still know, they of course all know that this law is there, which means it's okay as far as the government is concerned. And realistically, when you see what's actually happening in terms of prosecutions, the only people they really seem to prosecute are people who are operating outside the official system or whistleblowers. There was a Korean documentary recently documenting a South Korean documentary documenting this abuse, and they show the negotiations. They show the price, the speed, and so on. Again, I was at a conference and I was listening to Haibo Wang, and he says, "What's happening?" based on this documentary. So he says, "We're going after the woman who talked to the camera people. She's under, she's being looked for by the police." So I mean, that's the type of system we're dealing with.